another guy in a committee where we can really go either way is Jonathan Taylor, who was taken at the 209 spot in this draft. He's out of Wisconsin, and the Colts actually traded up for this pick. You can read into that, create your narratives if you want to, but this is a tough one for me. I want to say Taylor is that next dominant workhorse running back, but it kind of enters a crowded situation. We have Marlon Mack there with a year left. I believe Mack's like 24 years old, so still in a very much a prime window. We have still Nyheim Hines there, which a lot of people liked when they signed Rivers as a pass-catching scat back there. To me, Taylor will be in a 1A, 1B situation, but I do think he has that Clyde Edwards-Helaire possibility to fully take over. Alex, do you agree?
I do.
As our Colts fan, do you agree?
Man, I was so hyped about this pick when it happened. I had what I wanted the Colts to do going into the draft, and it's like get your receiver, which they did. I'm excited about Pittman. It's get some inside linebacker help, which there weren't a ton of guys on the table, so I don't blame them for kicking that to the side and going out and getting some other positional help. But when they drafted Jonathan Taylor, man, I was ecstatic because that's almost like a luxury pick for the Colts. Yeah, Marlon Mack has been good and he's been getting the job done, but Jonathan Taylor is just a step above Marlon Mack from an athleticism perspective, from just an elite running perspective. He can catch the ball. He can do it on the goal line. He can take your first and second down. He's the build of a true workhorse back in the NFL, where Marlon Mack has a lot of strength, but he's not quite as well-rounded. And even his top speed isn't quite there with Jonathan Taylor's. We saw him blaze that 4.39 40 at the combine. And they've both got the ability to power through guys and break tackles as well. So I was ecstatic to see the Jonathan Taylor pick. I might be reaching on him in drafts this year because I'm with you. I think he has the potential to get to that RB1 level. But as long as Marlon Mack is there, I'm just not quite sure that, the Colts are just going to get rid of Mack. I know Chris Ballard came out and said, no, we're not going to trade him. No, we're not going to cut him. I still think there is a chance that by the time the season starts, Marlon Mack is either traded or cut. And if that happens, like Jonathan Taylor truthers are going to go wild. His ADP is going to skyrocket. But I love Taylor. I think he's a great talent, but I think it's similar to the Lions situation. I actually have the Colts situation a little bit higher than I do the Lions just because they have that elite offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
And they love to run the ball, and they run it well, and they historically have done it well over the past several seasons. So I like Taylor as a locked-in RB2 this year. If something happens to Mack or if Taylor really starts to take over, I think he could finish as an RB1. He's talented enough to do it. This Colts team is formulated in their scheme, fits that narrative as well. And then for Marlon Mack, I think he's in that Kerryon Johnson territory where he's still going to get carries, maybe 10 to 12 a game, but his upside is capped. I think he's an RB3 at best.
Jonathan Taylor to me is like seems like the Zeke 2.0. If you think about if let's say in this draft it's a few years ago and the Colts take Ezekiel Elliott, that's kind of how I see the situation here. And when I asked myself that if they did take Zeke here with Mack and Hines there, where would I have him? So that's kind of how I'm trying to think about this move and kind of stat him out. We have Frank Reich coming out and saying with Jonathan Taylor into the mix, he envisions that it'll be a 1-2 punch between Taylor and Mack. They see him as potentially like a switch-up guy that can take a 10-yard gain, make it a 50 or 60-yard gain. So I think there's belief in Taylor. He's going to have the opportunity. It's a great landing spot, like you mentioned, the O-line. So I think he'll have fantasy viability in redraft this year, and definitely in Dynasty he does. But I'd rather see how things shake out a little bit first. I'd rather just be sad that I didn't grab Taylor this year and just take a guy that is a little bit more of a known commodity in redraft. But we'll see, man. I really think in 2021 it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, there's certainly some risk reward, and a fun stat on Marlon Mack is that he had 14 receptions last year. So he's non-existent in the receiving game, and I know Nyheim Hines is there, but Nyheim Hines is going to be on the field in obvious passing situations, but you think about all the other times on your standard drive, first, second, third down, that your feature back is on the field. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get a lot of receiving work. I think with Phillip Rivers there, it's really going to open up a lot in the play-action game. Just having someone as explosive and dynamic as Jonathan Taylor in the backfield that can take, bust off a 75-yard run to the house is really going to open things up for Phillip Rivers, which I think ultimately is just going to make this Colts offense that much better. And as a Colts fan, man, I'm excited. We were dull. Like last season, I would almost describe it as dull. We were boring. We were wholesome in a way where we were grinding out games, running the ball, getting 4.5 yards per carry, throwing the ball when we needed to, and playing good defense. And that's like all good. But when you look at the Chiefs, it's like, hey, let's send everybody deep and have some fun. And I think the Colts this season are taking a step to that. T.Y. Hilton's going to be healthy. Jonathan Taylor is going to add a whole new element to this offense. Phillip Rivers is there, getting someone who can sling the ball. And I'm super excited, man. As a Colts fan, I love the Taylor pick. To your point, I think redraft, I don't know how many shares of Jonathan Taylor I'm going to have, just because I think people are excited for him. And there's going to be risk takers out there that know he can be an RB1. But for me, I would almost rather go with a certainty in those middle rounds. Think about like a Melvin Gordon or a Jonathan Taylor. Who would you rather have in redraft, Steph?
Oh, I think, man, wow. Between those two names, I actually like Taylor just for the more like explosiveness and upside, and I do like the Colts offense better. So I'd actually take Jonathan Taylor there.
What about Mark Ingram or Jonathan Taylor? This one might actually be even easier.
Yeah, I'm taking Mark Ingram there. Honestly, I
Really?
love Baltimore situation. Yeah, I do, and
Wow.
a lot of people don't remember that Ingram finished last season as the RB12. I think he'll regress a little bit. Yes, he's a year older. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but I actually like Ingram a lot this year. We'll talk about that Ravens running back situation here in a second when we get to J.K. Dobbins.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll table it for now. I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum as you are with Mark Ingram, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and move on now.